Discovery, the ancient signal. The crystalline vessel Luminous Seeker drifted silently through the void between stars, its translucent hull shimmering with internal bioluminescence. Commander Thorin, a towering Vexillion with 6 articulated limbs and iridescent scales, stood motionless at the command center, all 4 of his eyes fixed on the holographic display before him. 7 cycles searching this sector, and still nothing concrete, he rumbled, his resonant voice carrying a mixture of frustration and determination. The council grows impatient. Dr. Lyra Navis, the ship's chief xenoarchaeologist, adjusted her environmental suit. As a Solarian, a silicon-based life form, she required different atmospheric conditions than most of the crew. Her crystalline body refracted the ship's ambient light as she approached the commander. "Science demands patience, Commander," she replied, her voice a melodious chime. "The precursor artifacts we found suggest an advanced civilization that predates all known species. If even half the legends are true, their technology could revolutionize life throughout the galaxy." The third member of their leadership team, Navigator Zilth, a bioluminescent luminar whose fluid body rippled with patterns of light representing his thoughts, pulsed with skepticism. "Legends and myths. We've explored 17 systems based on your theories, Doctor. At what point do we acknowledge we might be chasing ghosts?" Before Lyra could respond, the ship's sensors emitted a soft, urgent tone. Lieutenant Pax, a methane-breathing Kelvari with 8 tentacle-like appendages, manipulated the control interface with practiced precision. "Commander. We're detecting an unusual energy signature from the 4th planet. It's unlike anything in our database." The planet designated XR-241, a seemingly desolate rock orbiting a dying star, had been catalogued but deemed uninhabitable generations ago. Nothing remarkable had ever been reported about it. "Magnify," ordered Thorin, his scaled crest rising with interest. The holographic display zoomed in, revealing a faint, rhythmic pulse emanating from beneath the planet's surface. Lyra's crystalline form vibrated with excitement as she analyzed the readings. "This pattern, it's not natural. It's a signal, Commander. And the energy signature, it matches fragmentary readings we've recovered from other precursor sites. A deliberate beacon?" Ziltha's body flashed with patterns of disbelief. "Or an automated system still functioning after millennia," Lyra replied. "Either way, we need to investigate." The expedition team descended through the thin atmosphere of XR-241, their shuttle buffeted by harsh winds carrying dust that had remained undisturbed for countless ages. As they approached the coordinates of the energy signature, they discovered a massive canyon, its walls etched with geometric patterns too precise to be natural formations. The patterns match precursor symbology found on the artifacts in the Andromeda archives, Lyra noted, her excitement barely contained as they landed at the canyon's edge. Equipped with protective gear and research instruments, the team ventured into the canyon. Thorin led with a warrior's caution, while Lyra scanned every surface with meticulous attention. Ziltha's bioluminescent body provided illumination in the deepening shadows, and Lieutenant Pax monitored their surroundings for any signs of danger. After descending nearly a kilometer into the planet's crust, they discovered an entrance hidden beneath millennia of dust and debris. The doorway was composed of an unknown alloy that had withstood the ravages of time without degradation. "Remarkable preservation," whispered Lyra, running her crystalline fingers along the surface. "The molecular structure is self-repairing." As her touch connected with the door, ancient mechanisms hummed to life. Lights flickered along the door's frame, and symbols appeared, glowing with an inner luminescence. "It's responding to your presence," Thorin observed, his hand instinctively moving to his weapon. With a sound like a long-held breath finally released, the massive door slowly parted, revealing a corridor that stretched deep into the planet's heart. The air that rushed out was strangely clean, filtered by systems that had continued functioning through the ages. "By the cosmic winds," Zilth pulsed, his patterns displaying awe and trepidation. "It's been waiting for us." The facility within dwarfed their expectations. Vast chambers filled with dormant technology lined pathways that seemed designed for beings of various sizes and forms. Holographic interfaces flickered to life as they passed, displaying incomprehensible streams of data in an unknown language. This architecture, Lyra marveled, it's designed to accommodate multiple species. The precursors weren't just one civilization, they were a coalition. As they reached what appeared to be the central chamber, they encountered a massive spherical structure suspended in the center. Within it pulsed a core of energy, tendrils of light reaching outward like a living entity. "This is it," Lyra whispered. "The source of the signal." Lieutenant Pax's instruments went haywire as they approached the sphere. "The energy readings are off the scale. Whatever this is, it's been running at minimal power for thousands of years, perhaps longer." Thorin approached cautiously, his scaled skin reflecting the pulsing light. "What is it? A power source? A weapon?" Before Lyra could hypothesize, the sphere suddenly intensified, its light flooding the chamber. The tendrils of energy reached out, touching each member of the team in turn. A voice, not heard with ears but felt within their minds, spoke in perfect clarity. Identity verification protocol initiated. Non-human entities detected. Contingency parameters activated. "I am Echo, the Emergency Cultural Heritage Operator. Welcome, explorers, to Outpost Terra." The team exchanged bewildered glances. The term non-human was unfamiliar, there was no reference point in their collective knowledge for what human might be. "We are representatives of the Galactic Confederation," Thorin stated formally. "We come seeking knowledge of the precursors." A pause, then, "Precursors. An interesting designation. You refer to humanity, correct? To the civilization that once spanned this galaxy?" Lyra stepped forward, her crystalline form trembling with the magnitude of the moment. "Humanity? There is no record of such a species in our database. Who were they? What happened to them?" The energy within the sphere pulsed, almost like a sigh. "I see. Then it has been far longer than we anticipated. The Great Diaspora occurred approximately 100,000 standard years ago by your reckoning. Humanity, Homo sapiens, was the dominant species of this galaxy. This facility is one of thousands scattered across the stars, designed to preserve our knowledge until the time was right for our return." The revelation sent shock waves through the team. The legendary precursors weren't some unknowable alien intelligence, they were a single species, now apparently extinct or hidden, who had once ruled the stars that all modern civilizations now called home. "If this is true," Zilth pulsed, patterns of disbelief rippling across his form, "then everything we know about galactic history is wrong." "Not wrong," Echo corrected. "Incomplete. And now, after eons of waiting, the time has come to fill those gaps. The Lazarus Protocol has been initiated." As the AI's words echoed in their minds, systems throughout the facility began to power up, lights illuminating corridors that stretched seemingly endlessly into the planet's depths. The signal that had drawn them to this world intensified, broadcasting outward across the galaxy. Commander Thorin, realizing the potential magnitude of what they had stumbled upon, activated his communication device. "Luminous Seeker, this is Thorin. Contact the Confederation Council immediately. Priority Alpha. We found something that will change everything." Little did he know how prophetic those words would prove to be. The awakening of Echo was merely the first note in a symphony that would reshape the galaxy, as humanity's forgotten legacy began to stir from its long slumber. The Archive awakens. The news of the discovery spread through the Galactic Confederation like wildfire. Within days, ships from every major species converged on XR-241, now designated Outpost Terra. The planet, once an unremarkable rock, had become the epicenter of the greatest archaeological find in recorded history. Commander Thorin now found himself coordinating a massive research operation, with Dr. Lyra Navis leading the scientific teams. The crystalline xenoarchaeologist had barely rested since Echo's awakening, her silicon-based form vibrating with constant excitement as she processed the flood of information. "The data we're uncovering is overwhelming," she reported during the daily briefing, her voice chiming with enthusiasm. Echo has granted us access to the facility's first-level archives. They contain historical records spanning thousands of years of human civilization. High Counselor Varix, a gaseous entity contained within an ornate hovering vessel, had arrived personally to oversee the operation. His voice emerged through a translator device, tinged with skepticism. "And you're certain of this AI's veracity? The claim that a single species once dominated the galaxy before all our recorded history seems convenient." Lieutenant Pax, who had been analyzing the facility's technology, extended 2 tentacles in a gesture of affirmation. "The technology here is millennia beyond our own, yet paradoxically familiar. Many of our own advancements appear to be crude descendants of human innovations that we must have discovered and reverse-engineered over time." Echo's voice resonated through the chamber, emanating from the spherical core that remained the heart of the facility. "I understand your skepticism, High Counselor. It is a logical response. Perhaps a demonstration would be beneficial." The lights dimmed, and a holographic display materialized in the center of the room. It showed a solar system with 9 planets, the home system of humanity, designated Sol. The third planet, a beautiful blue-green jewel, rotated slowly. "This was Earth, the cradle of humanity," Echo explained. "From this single world, humans expanded throughout their system, then to nearby stars, and eventually across the galaxy." The hologram shifted, showing the expansion of human civilization across the stars in an accelerated timeframe. Thousands of worlds were settled, transformed, connected by a network of faster-than-light travel that made the Confederation's current technology look primitive by comparison. But what happened to them? Navigator Zilth pulsed, his bioluminescent patterns reflecting his growing fascination. "A civilization this advanced doesn't simply vanish." The hologram shifted again, showing signs of conflict, battles between massive fleets, worlds transformed not by terraforming but by weapons of unimaginable power. "The fragmentation war," Echo said, its mental voice carrying a note of what might have been sadness. "As humanity spread farther from Earth, colonies developed their own cultures, ideologies, and eventually, competing interests. What began as minor disputes escalated into a conflict that threatened to tear the galaxy apart. The images were both beautiful and terrifying, ships larger than moons, weapons that could extinguish stars, and throughout it all, the spreading devastation that threatened to consume everything humanity had built. The leaders of Earth saw that the war would end only with humanity's extinction," Echo continued. "So they developed the Celestial Directive, a plan to preserve human knowledge and genetic material while allowing the galaxy time to heal from the war's devastation. They went into hiding," Lyra realized, her crystalline form reflecting the hologram's light in dazzling patterns. "All of them?" "Not hiding, hibernation," Echo corrected. Thousands of facilities like this one were established throughout the galaxy, each containing cultural archives and genetic repositories. The plan was to re-emerge when conditions were suitable for humanity's return. High Counselor Varix's gaseous form swirled with agitation. "And now, after 100,000 years, you believe those conditions have been met? What exactly does that mean for the current inhabitants of the galaxy?" Before Echo could respond, an alarm sounded. Lieutenant Pax moved quickly to a monitoring station, his tentacles flying over the controls. "Multiple facilities activating across the galaxy," he reported, his voice rising with urgency. "They're all broadcasting the same signal pattern as this one." The holographic display shifted to show a galactic map, with points of light appearing at various locations, dozens at first, then hundreds, then thousands. "The Lazarus Protocol," Echo confirmed. "Once one facility is discovered and authenticated, all others begin their awakening sequence. The time has come for humanity's return." Deep in the lower levels of the facility, far below where the Confederation team had been permitted to explore, another awakening was taking place. A sealed chamber hummed with energy as ancient stasis fields began to deactivate. Within transparent pods, humanoid figures stirred for the first time in 100,000 years. The first to awaken was a tall woman with dark skin and silver hair, her eyes sharp despite millennia of sleep. Dr. Eleni Vassos, lead architect of the Celestial Directive, took her first breath of recycled air and smiled. The monitors around her showed the status of her fellow sleepers, all stable, all awakening according to protocol. "Report," she commanded, her voice hoarse from disuse but still carrying the authority of one accustomed to being obeyed. A holographic figure appeared, a younger version of Echo, designated for this inner sanctum. "Protocol successful, Doctor. First contact has been established with a coalition of non-human species. Initial assessment suggests a level 3 civilization spanning approximately 40% of our former territory. And the Reclamation Vanguard? Any sign they awoke first?" "Negative. However, we've detected signals suggesting simultaneous activation of multiple facilities, including those under Vanguard control." Dr. Vassos nodded grimly. The Reclamation Vanguard had been the military hardliners who had opposed the Celestial Directive, believing humanity should fight to the last rather than retreat. They had eventually compromised, agreeing to the hibernation on the condition that they too would be awakened when the time came. But their vision for humanity's return had always been one of reconquest rather than peaceful reintegration. "We have very little time," she murmured, stepping from the pod and accepting the clothing a robotic assistant offered. "Prepare the others for awakening. Priority on the diplomatic corps and cultural integration specialists." As the inner sanctum bustled with activity, Dr. Vassos studied the feeds showing the Confederation representatives above. So many different species working together, it was precisely the outcome they had hoped for when they implemented the directive. But would these new galactic citizens welcome humanity's return, or fear it? And more importantly, could she stop the Vanguard before they turned humanity's re-emergence into a new fragmentation war? On the surface, Commander Thorin was facing a crisis of his own. Reports were flooding in from Confederation worlds about the activation of human facilities. Some had been hidden beneath oceans or deep within mountains, others disguised as natural formations in space. Each awakening sent shock waves through local populations. "We need to establish a unified response," he insisted to the assembled representatives. "If these facilities are all awakening simultaneously, we need protocols for contact and containment." "Containment?" Lyra's crystalline form shimmered with indignation. "These are archives of knowledge, not weapons. The scientific potential alone is precisely why we need caution," interrupted Varix. "Technology this advanced, in the wrong hands, could destabilize the entire Confederation. Already there are reports of groups attempting to breach facilities by force." Echo's presence filled the room once more. "I must inform you that the Lazarus Protocol involves more than just the awakening of archives. The genetic repositories are also activating. Humanity is returning, physically returning, to the galaxy." The revelation stunned the chamber into silence. It was one thing to discover the legacy of an ancient species, it was quite another to learn that species was about to reclaim its place among the stars. "How many?" Thorin finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Approximately 10 million individuals were preserved in stasis across all facilities," Echo responded. "Not all will have survived the hibernation, but our projections suggest at least 60% viability. 6 million humans, awakening simultaneously across the galaxy. 6 million representatives of a species powerful enough to have once ruled the stars, now emerging into a galaxy that had forgotten them entirely. The cosmic stage was set for either a magnificent reunion or a catastrophic conflict, and the outcome would depend on choices made in the coming days by beings who had never expected to face such a moment of truth." As if to punctuate this reality, the facility trembled slightly, and new doors opened in the main chamber, doors leading downward, into the heart of humanity's legacy. "They're coming," Echo announced. "The architects of the Celestial Directive wish to meet you."